Hey, you guys snuck up on me. Just kidding around, fellas. How you all doing? I hope you're all doing well. Um, got a bit of a problem here, and it's this here. I know half you guys are gonna say when I show you this, well, I know what your problem is. No, it's not that I'm working on it, so you can cut that out. Especially you beans. I know you beans. You're saying something like that. Um, and not that it's a Ford, but that is a Ford big block. And to be honest, a few of my buddies have been doing some segments on these engines, and they're all doing a dandy job. Jeff from Two Hats, my hat's off to you, Jeff. You've done a wonderful job covering all the do's and don'ts of them heads. I've been telling people that for a long time, and you did a great job, buddy, covering all that in that segment. That's a lot to cover. These engines are a lot to cover just talking about one thing, not alone trying to cover a whole head from the valve train to all the problems that you run into with them heads. You know, Jeff, them heads, I seen a couple comments on your channel, and I seen a guy said something on there, and he's right. It's not just them heads, it's all heads. Buy them bare. I don't care if they're Chinese or what. And the CNC stuff we're paying for, don't waste your money on it. Unless you want to just say, I don't care what these guys say. When we tell you something, we tell you for a reason. If you want to go ahead and waste $1,000 on CNC and a head and then have the garbage that I've seen when I dig into it, and it's the worst thing I've ever seen, and it actually loses flow around the seat area, then you go ahead. But when you have guys like Jeff and Bear Rose telling you stuff, we're on here for a reason. I'm on here for reasons to help people. And believe me, when you mess with these big block Fords, you need help. Bear Rose, he cuts through the chase. He'll show you things. He'll show you how to get bolts out without breaking them. And there's a technique to that. But most of that comes from experience. It comes from knowing how to do that. If you try to tell somebody them things, it's very hard to tell them to choke up on a wrench and actually go the opposite direction first, to snug it a little bit, then tighten it back. And it never hurts to heat them. But here's the problem with the 460. They shrink. And here's another thing. This engine here, I believe, is close to what Bear Rose has. This is either have a motorhome or a truck. I don't know which. I don't care. But I think it matters when it comes to this problem. It's a later model engine. And I know on a early 70, 69 engine, all these bolts right here on the water pump and the plate, I've never gotten them out without snapping them. Bear Rose, you might have, because you're really good at that stuff. But I'll tell you what, I'm pretty good at that stuff. I've never gotten them out, because what happens, they're so long, and they shrink, and they stick. They're going to stick when you're dealing with a motor that's 30 years old. But that's my biggest surprise when it came to doing this engine right here. They didn't snap off. And the exhaust usually snaps off too into the head. So I thought, boy, I got lucky on this. So what surprises am I going to find? Well, so far it's been pretty good. $50 engine. Here's another thing that's different, because Bear Rose covered this too. He talked about everything changing from year to year. Even if you know these engines, I forgot more that I know about these engines today. I ran them back in the day. I got away from them. I had to relearn myself, and I'm still relearning myself. In the late model stuff, I didn't have a clue. When I got into that and found out that the heads actually have a raised runner and the intake doesn't bolt up the same, and it's all good stuff if you do the other stuff with it for performance. But if you're trying to bolt it on early model head and use that fuel injected intake, it doesn't work. It's totally, if you turn the gasket upside down, it's just the opposite. It will work, but then the other stuff doesn't line up. But that's how much the port's off. I'm getting into too much. I'm going to lose my train of thought. But here's what I wanted to show you guys. The external oil canister. So people that know more than I do might understand why that's on there. My theory would be it's because it was in something that you couldn't get at it back here, because usually the canister will screw right into the block right here, right where this bolts in. And the canister actually does it. It goes into here. That's where the oil filter normally would come out this way. This filter would usually stick out straight like this. But instead it has the canister here. It screws into where the oil filter normally goes, and then it extends it out. I actually had a guy on my forum get a hold of me, and they asked me if I had one of them. I told him no. And I'll tell you why I said no, because I don't know if I'm using that or not, but I know the minute I get pulled that off of there and go to do the standard stuff and sell that, I know I'll have a problem on my hands. I don't dare do that this time. Usually I try to look after everybody else, but that'd be a mistake if I do that. I think I'm just going to leave it where it's at. And once I dig into the engine, then maybe I'll say I don't need it, and I'll make a post about it. But here's the thing I wanted to show you guys. This engine has been sitting, like always, twice as long as I've intended. And I'm getting better with age somewhat. More forgetful, but when I forget things, it makes me do things I wouldn't do when I was younger, because I know I'm going to run into a problem looking for my valves, which I took the time to mark, dub valves. And why did I put dub valves? Because I also have somewhere around here the fuel injected valves. So I put on this dub parts. I hope that shows up, because when I show you guys this stuff, I can't tell if I'm holding it straight, because I can't see anything. I'm blind when I do this. I'm just putting the phone down there hoping that it shows up. So I'm going to show you guys something, and it's not just because it's a 460. It's any Ford, probably any engine that's out there, and it's this right here. Where the distributor goes, it always has, hang on guys, I'm trying to grab the light, but of course it's got to be just the way it always is. Hold on fellas while I grab my light, because I'm not trashing this video. I can't keep doing that. It runs my phone down, and it is what it is, guys. Just take it as it comes. All natural, all mistakes, all the time. And my light just busted actually on me here, and it's not mine, it's my son's. So now I have no clip on that, but that's the way it goes. But well, I'll show you in the dark, because I can't get the light over here like normal. It gets screwed around it right here, and the distributor doesn't like to go back in. Even if you just pull it out of the engine, it doesn't like to go back in. And also around the distributor, which has a ring around it up here. It seats it from leaking oil, and these do go bad. So there's a rubber seal right here on this. I don't know if you guys can see or not. So it's right here in this groove. So you always want to clean this off real well. And you want to clean this off real well. And there's a couple ways of doing that. And it's all common sense. You just stick a rag, especially if you don't have the engine apart, because I'm cleaning all this out. The pan's coming off. It's all getting cleaned out all through the valve garly here, and that'll all be getting all re-cleaned, and the motor's a mess. So, but you'd always want to put something down in here, because if you clean this out and it's in your truck or car, and you just have the distributor out for a reason, for some problem you might have had or have, anything you get down in here would go down into the oil pump and either seize the pump up or suck up into the pump, and you'd have a mess on your hands, because if you lose oil pressure, that's never a good thing. And any grit you get down in here goes in the oil course. It's going to go through, pump through the engine, your camshaft, your lifters, the whole, anything affiliated with the oiling system. You get down in this hole right here, it's going to go down in the pan, and it's never good. So I do have to clean this engine up. It has a lot on it as far as cleanup, and Bear Rose did a good section, or a good segment on that. Sorry guys, lose my train of thought trying to think of 5 things here again. But I'm going to show how to do this without a power washer and everything, because this is getting done right here evidently, and I'm going to have to use a different method to clean this block up, and I'll be getting to that segment soon, hopefully. But here's one thing I did want to show, is just take a brush, usually a wire brush, and clean this out. And a lot of times it will have rust in here, so you might have to pick it out like with a screwdriver or a little pick. So you just make sure this legs right here is clean, and that way it drops in nice and easy for you, because this is a pain putting in at times anyway. If you don't get this lined up right, it's a pain. I already cleaned this up before, because I did a segment on this before and actually had to throw it in the trash. So even though I'm making a mistake this time on my words and stuff, it is what it is. That's just how it has to be. But if you see how the distributor never wants to go in right, you have to fight with them a little bit. So that makes it a lot easier when you have that cleaned out, because on a Ford, it's very hard getting that oil pump to line up, unless you take the time to line the oil pump up with a drill or something and face the oil pump shaft where it has to go through on the bottom. So a lot of times it cocks a little bit sideways, and if you can straighten that pump shaft up, it will drop right in. And of course your gears, sometimes you have to move the engine back and forth a little bit to get the gears to line up. So it all depends what reason it's not dropping in. But sometimes you might have to just take it and move the engine back and forth like this. But that's another segment. I'm getting off of why I originally started this video, and it was because of this. One of the things I do take the time to do, even if the motor's not apart like this, I take the time to always spray some kind of oil down in the cylinders. Even if I have to do it through a head, like if I have an engine in a car and it's sitting there with no headers on it, I'll definitely spray this in there and then put rags back in the exhaust ports. And even though I had done this before, I had this treated, I came out here because I want to get going on this engine, and it seems like I'm never going to get to it. So I noticed the cylinder here had rust in it, starting to get into it, and I was like, I can't have that. So, like I said, I had already done this before, but what you want to do is just take and fill these up with any kind of oil. You can use trans fluid, you can use regular motor oil if you want to, but I just use this because it's easy, and usually I keep up on this stuff and I just turn it over a few times. And another thing, this will kind of show you how good your ring seal is, because if this oil stays in there for a while, that's a good thing. If it drains right down running past the rings, chances are it's not a very good compression engine. So, which means it would need oil rings in it, or a rebuilt, or the cylinders are worn. A lot of different reasons. But I just thought I'd show you guys that. So I started doing this and I thought, let me make a video about it. And be honest guys, I like doing this kind of stuff. But like I started to say, this engine's going to be getting a new cam, a new timing chain, which according to the numbers, I believe that's the original timing chain because it has the numbers on it right up here, and they come out to be D9TE, but which would be 79. But sometimes that doesn't really mean everything. It's something how this would have a double roller on it too. The other motors back in the day, they were nylon chains. They'd be a lot worse than this one. This one here does have play in it. But an old nylon chain would usually just jump off. Instead of getting slack like that, they would usually just break. And yeah, that's one of the things we're spoiled with today. A lot of these engines have high dollar parts in them when it comes to timing chains and things like that. They're better than they were back in the day. But I just thought I'd show you guys this. And why I got these on here. Oh, let me see guys, hang on. See if I can get this in here. Hey Bear Rose, does them motor mounts look familiar? I think they might. I think they look the same as the ones you have, I believe. But I'm not exactly sure. I didn't get to see exactly what you had there, but they look pretty beefy. The ones I have now, the aftermarket ones, are very nice. They're light. I'm anxious to get this engine cleaned up, guys, and get on it. I'm a little behind again. I have some good stuff coming up for you guys, like E7 stuff. Yeah, we're going to be doing some of that again real soon. But I do have to get on this, or we're never going to get to see this truck run. I had some plans. I was actually undecided if I would rather have the Mustang running or the truck. The truck's got me more excited than the Mustang. I don't know if it's because I've had it and done it, almost done it with my car. The same thing as the green car, but I'm a little under that car. So what do? Do I concentrate on the Mustang, keep putting the truck off, I got to figure things out. So I'm doing a little bit that I can do at a time. Today was a washout, and I said, well, let me at least go out in the garage and do something to get some motivation here. Because if you don't keep your mind going on things, you're not going to stay with it. That's one thing. That's how I look at it. But anyway, guys, I'm not going to make this a long, drawn-out video. I just wanted to run a few things by you like that. And try to make it more on the light side instead of always so serious about stuff. Because this should be fun. I want this to be fun. But I already know there's going to be somebody... They can't wait to tell me all about John Causey and the whole bit. I already know it has a short cam timing. I do know some of the stuff about these engines. I do remember some of it. Yeah, I know how to make them run. It's just I don't know year to year. Like I had the worst engine ever. I had the big open chamber, 73 head, and the piston was down in the hole, and I ran that motor back in the day. This engine here is going to be down in the hole, and I'm giving up a lot of horsepower to this engine, probably 75 horse between the cam choice and the heads that I'm putting on there, the Doves, is still going to be down on horsepower because that piston not coming all the way up the top, that gives you very minimum loss of performance. I'll say 50 to 75 horsepower. Even though I'm doing the work to the heads, guys, it doesn't let that, when there's no quench area, it makes that a hindrance in performance. The head can't really do its full potential. And these engines need all the help they can get. People think, oh, they're big block Ford, they make big torque. They make big torque at too high of RPM. A Buick 455 makes it at 2,800. These motors make it at like 4,500 with a stock cam. I don't understand that. But a Buick also has a very small runner head. These have a big, sloppy, bad design. I'm going to be discussing that. The more I learned about these engines, the more disgusted I became with them. I used to stick up for these motors. But Barrows, you're worried about hurting people that like the Ford's feelings, but truth is the truth. You forgot to add one thing, though. Maybe you didn't. You covered a lot. You talk about how easy the bolts were in the water pump. All 15 of them? Now there's like 6 or 8, and they're all different sizes. One's this long, and the 302s are like that too. So Chevy, I'll give them credit. 4 bolts hold the water pump on. Did Ford think you're going to pull the motor out by the water pump and need all them bolts in there like that? I'm a Ford person. They did a lot of dumb stuff, and one thing I won't do is stick up for stupidity. When I say something, it's going to be whether it's a Ford brand or whatever, it's because it's the truth, at least in my book, not because it's just something I'm sticking up for. My grandfather, he used to blow motors up and everything, my father said, with a Chevy, and he would swear by them, and he had nothing but bad luck with them. My father had bad luck with Dodges back in the day, and what he said, he didn't like them because of that reason. My grandfather, he would brag a Chevy up even though he blew them up all the time, constantly. He didn't even drive hard. This is back in the day. There's brands that are good, there's brands that are bad, and there's people that will stick up for them, even if you have them blowed up 50 times on you. To me, a motor that blows up on their normal conditions and just takes a crap on you, and you drive it easy, and there's really nothing wrong except for it's a defective engine, that's another thing. Then you have people who will let it run out of oil and say, oh, it's a piece of crap because they ran it dry. And you never know how something was taken care of before you buy it. You know, half the time people talk about an engine, are they the third owner? Did they buy that brand new? You know, that's the whole thing. People never seem to realize that. They'll talk and say, oh, I had a Ford. That was a piece of crap. Well, when did you get it? When it had 200,000 on it or 300? Or did you buy it brand new and it was just a bad motor? My uncle bought a brand new Chevy truck back in '70. He pulled up, he told my dad, so it has a noise on it. I don't know what's wrong with it. Something's wrong with this. Just brought it home from the dealer. My dad walked out and he says, Joe, you have a wape cam. He says, you're crazy. He goes, it's brand new. My dad said, you have a wape cam. They took it to the dealer and the guy said, who told you this had a wape cam in it? My uncle just said, my brother did. He usually knows what he's talking about, but I just can't say it. He said, your brother is 100% right. He goes, that only happens 1 out of 1,000,000 people. The guy told my uncle. My uncle says, yeah, and I'm always that millionth guy. He said, and he was so disgusted because he bought 3 of them. He bought them for his work. He had a farm and he bought 3 trucks at a time, I believe. At least 2 or 3. But yeah, I guess I'd tell that story. But it comes down to this. I bought a brand new truck and it wouldn't shift the next day. And it would have dodged, but I loved that truck. And then it straightened out. They couldn't even find anything. This is back in 2008. And I drove it home from the dealer, parked it, went out the next morning, and it wouldn't shift. But am I going to call that truck a piece of crap because it had a problem like that? Or am I going to call whatever caused that problem just a problem that vehicle had? I'm not going to say the whole truck is a piece of crap because of that reason. Because I loved that truck. I liked how it drove. I liked everything about it. But, you know, some people, they'll call something a piece of junk because of one problem. And I'm one of these people that it has to be totally bad all the way around. And most of the time you can work around stuff and fix it. You know, if you know the problem that they have. So, whatever brand you run, it's like this here. You can't blame for some person saying, well, I like the Chevys. I never had a problem with them. I like the Ford. I never had a problem with them. I like a Dodge. I never had a problem. And then they might have had problems. Everybody might have had a problem with them because you do have problems with stuff. But it's all dependent on the person. You know, a little vibration in a car isn't a big deal to one person and it's terrible to another. The radio not working to somebody is a big deal to somebody. And it might not be a big deal to a guy that don't even care if the car has a radio in it. So it all depends on the person. And it also depends on if you're mechanically inclined. So, guys, I'm babbling. I hope I don't offend nobody talking about a brand or saying anything bad. This isn't a debate on that. This is just things that people said. And you're always going to hear that talk. Them guys were hammering at the Ford the other night on a live. Right, John? Not bad. Everybody has their brands that they like, that's all. I will say this, I like a 302 because I've never had an engine that you can put nitrous on and run it with 300 and 400,000 miles on it. I know, it's because it's already loose. Okay. That's like the craziest thing I've heard. It's kind of somewhat true with the ring gap, I know, but the fact that motor's been around for 300 or 400 miles already running and never been rebuilt. Not one. Every one we've had has come out of a 86, 87, 88, 90, 91. Yeah, they're all that old. These motors aren't freshened up that we have guys that you see running. I just want to tell people that because the truth is the truth. So when I'm a loyal person to a brand, that's why. Not because I'm just some bullheaded Ford guy. Because I'll tell you all the wrong stuff they did. And there's a lot of it. I don't know where their brains are at sometimes. Especially on this one here. You take a big block. You design a head that doesn't work right. And what do? You make it bigger. Let's make a Cobra Jet head. And then we'll make a Super Cobra Jet head. And make it this big. I'll get into that later. I have a lot to say about that. I'm going to cut this off because you know what? This phone's going to shut me off anyway. Anyway, guys, I hope this was helpful. I have nothing against any of the brands I talk about because I've had them all, I run them all, and I like them all. So, cut me a little leeway, guys, if I did happen to slip up and say something the wrong way. Because when I play this back, every time I say, well, I shouldn't have said it that way. And that's how it always is. But I don't mean it no harm, guys. I never do. If you like a Volvo, you have like to like that vehicle. It doesn't matter. So I just wanted to stress that a little bit, guys. But anyway, fellas, thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my nonsense, to listen to me babble, and to make all these mistakes. I appreciate it, guys. Because there's some real professional guys out there. They don't make all these blunders that I do, and you still take the time to watch me, and I appreciate it. Have a good one, guys. And always remember, keep God on your side. We need that in our life. And I mean that. So I hope that's helpful to somebody. Have a good one, guys.